Hey there, Script Reader Pro family, Scott here. Today in this video, we're going to talk about that midpoint bump in your movie, why it's important, a new perspective you may not have found where you can look at it to make sure things are happening in the right way in your feature script. So let's go in and let's tackle it and let's have some fun. Hey everybody, Scott Parisian here once again from Script Reader Pro. And today we're going to be talking about the midpoint in your movie. Midpoints are that moment in a film where everything kicks into high gear. And a lot of times when you are writing that second act, it's a big piece of the pie, right? It's half of your movie and a lot of things have to happen within that time frame. And in order to keep the momentum moving and to keep that pace drilling forward, you have to have something happen around the middle of your movie that sparks that drive. Midpoints don't necessarily have to happen right at that exact middle of your movie. If you're 102 pages long, that midpoint bump doesn't have to happen on page 51. It can happen on 45, 60. It's somewhere around the middle of your movie to push your character in a new direction. And different gurus have different ways of explaining it in their different kind of story map or breakdown, whether it's a false victory or a major turning point. There are different ways to do it, but one of the best ways to look at that midpoint is the moment your character, your leading character, is no longer reactive to their story, but they are now the active force, right? Where they stop and they realize that the only way they're going to be victorious as this movie goes on is if they become the one who grabs the reins to their story. Characters can't be reactive the whole movie. It's hard to root for someone who's just doing what they need to do to survive through the moment. We are going to root for characters who take control, who are going to stand up and say, no more. I have a plan. I am the one who can do this. I am the only one who can win this story. There are a lot of movies that have great examples of that midpoint change in a movie. So sometimes it's a major plot piece where you are taking an event and you are slapping the characters with it, forcing them to become active. It always kicks something into gear in a different way. There are plenty of great examples of new movies and old movies. If you look at something like The Godfather, it's the moment where Michael Corleone goes into that restaurant with that gun and performs his first killing. That is the moment of no return. That is where that character becomes active. He's not reacting to all of the choices by the family. He is making the choice. He is stepping forward. This is now his story. If you look at something like Titanic, my probably all-time favorite movie, the Titanic hits an iceberg. That forces the characters to be active. Up to that point, they're doing things in the story where they are reacting to their situation, to the people around them, to strokes of luck, to connection. They are choosing to react to that world they are in, even though they want to break out of it. And the iceberg hits and all hell breaks loose. They are now forced into action. They have to do everything possible to survive. And so they become that active force. And they may have had active moments by getting together, but they're still reacting to the powers that are holding them down. But once that iceberg hits, everything changes and they become active forces in their story. It doesn't matter the genre. If you look at something like Don't Breathe, excellent thriller, edge of our seat, stress, conflict, tension. Halfway through that movie, they discover what's really in the basement. What is it this man is trying to hide? And I don't want to spoil it for you. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Great movie. It's a moment that changes everything. These characters are trying to survive in this house and trying to get out, but also trying to get what they came for. And this moment happens and they realize that because of what's in the basement, there's no way they're getting out alive. This man is not going to let them take his secret and put it out there. If you look at something like Parasite, right? Oscar-winning movie. It's a great example, piece by piece, of brilliant structure in that film. But halfway through the movie, you realize that something is downstairs that nobody knew was there, even us in the audience. We are, again, I'm not going to give it away and spoil it, but we are treated to this revelation of what is going to take these characters and make everything upside down. And because of it, those characters that were pretty nonchalant about their lifestyle and they were creating different personas and lying and doing all of these things to react and find a way to live within this system and exploit it, they are now forced to be active in how the rest of their lives play out. They must make major decisions to change the course of everything. And if they don't, it's done. They're over. So they become forced to be active in an even more surprising way than they have so far. If you look at Back to the Future, there are so many moments in that movie that really do change everything, right? The moment Marty gets hit by the car and gets taken in by his mother, the moment that he changes things with Biff and puts George under a microscope and has Lorraine falling in love with him, all of these things, there's a ton of things happening. But halfway through the movie, they come to this realization of how to get back to the future, what they have to do to get Marty home. They have to time things right. They have to use that lightning bolt to create the energy to send him home. And at that moment, Marty's then ready to go. They become active. They have a plan. He plans to enjoy hanging out and has to then realize he has to get his parents back together or everything is doomed. So he becomes that active participant. Up to that point, he was exploring the new world. He was reacting to everything around him. He was just having a good time trying to figure it all out. And suddenly, things change and he becomes the active force, both him and Doc, but him especially because he is that leading protagonist. So everything going forward there, even the obstacles that are presented have something to do with him being active, something that he's changed, something that he has to fix. It's a very active progression through the story for Marty. If you look at your screenplays and try to pinpoint what that event is at your midpoint of your movie, if you can tie it to character in the deepest possible way, it's going to be that much more effective, right? Usually in the first half of that second act, your character is exploring that new world. They're feeling their way around. They're gaining new information. They're creating new relationships. They're learning tricks and tools that they pick up and put in their pocket. Then at that halfway point, something happens to them where they realize they need to step away from being that explorer, from being in that moment of learning things, where they decide, okay, now I'm going to take all of these things I've learned, all of these tools I've picked up, all of these skills, these friendships, these people I can count on. I am then going to become active and take over this story, and I am going to be the one who uses all that because that's why I'm here. Your character must make that decision, and the obstacles can get harder and harder and harder as they go through everything, but they need to get to that point of realization where the events that have happened at that middle point in the movie force them to be that changed person. That's part of their character arc. That is part of what pushes them forward to overcome the flaw that has been holding them back from being successful or happy or whatever it is they're going through in that catharsis of their journey. But the midpoint of that movie should be that shift of character. It should be that force of nature that pushes them to make that conscious decision to be active. Because when a character decides that, no more, I am going to be victorious here, I am the only one who can take down the bad guy, that creates excitement, that creates momentum and energy and movement through your story. Great movies move us. And we build into the experience of that character as we get to know their ordinary world, spend time with them, see them go through the motions, understand who they are and why they are built a certain way. And when we watch them leave that first act consciously and purposefully, whether they want to or not, they go into that moment and they move forward towards something. And they need to have that event happen that shifts them, whether it knocks their feet out, bashes them to the ground, throws them down a figurative flight of stairs. they need to stop and realize that, okay, now this is serious. No more messing around. I need to do this. It's a great way to focus that middle section of your script and break that big second act up into at least 2 pieces or more to give you an opportunity to look at it from a different angle, through a different lens, so that you can realize what your character needs in order to keep moving forward. It can be that false victory where they think they've won and they realize that they're not even close, that it's been smokescreens or red herrings or misdirection, and suddenly they're like, no, enough is enough. I'm not going to let this mess me up anymore. I am going to be the force of action in my story. Don't ever forget that for that leading character, especially, all the other characters view it the same way in their little world. But for your main character, this is their story, right? That's the character that if you removed from the story, there would be no story. That active character, that leading woman or man or whatever it is, a donkey, it doesn't matter. That's the force of the story. They own the story, and it's great for them to be reactive and not quite sure what they're supposed to do for half the movie, but there has to be a time where enough is enough and they are going to go forward with this. So look at all of the movies that you love and try and find that midpoint in your movie. Every movie has that shift where things change, and you will see that the more you study them. Read the screenplays and watch how that moment unfolds. See if you can track where that character is reacting to things and when they finally decide that they're going to be active, right? Even Tony Stark in Iron Man, for the first half of that movie, he is a product of his own system, right? He doesn't have the humanity he needs. He's all about the money and the power and the lifestyle. And then he begins to see the hero in himself. He begins to create that persona of Iron Man. He finds the technology. He realizes that maybe he doesn't have to be so selfish. Maybe he can be selfless. Maybe he can be a hero. But halfway through that movie, he realizes that it's up to him, that he needs to be that active hero because he believes that he can do it. And he has a lot of things to overcome, and a lot of his character flaws hold him back and trip him up. But in the end, he becomes successful and becomes that man who's shaping into the hero he's meant to be. It doesn't matter the genre. It doesn't matter the story. It doesn't matter who the main character is. Midpoint through their journey, something has to happen to force them to take a look around them, realize that they're not going to win unless they change, and they become that active force in their story. We really hope you're enjoying all of these videos that we're bringing you. We're trying hard to put stuff out there that will help you grow better with every page. That's kind of our mission here. That's our passion. We want to help you grow. And so please subscribe if you haven't yet. Hit that little alert button so you can be alerted when we drop new videos. Check out our website in the description below. It lists all of the different services and opportunities that we have put together to help you grow and help you get better and be better with every page. Feel free to check out our other videos. We have a lot of stuff going on here. We're happy to bring it to you. And until next time, write hard.